my life be an altar. Light up my lungs with your prayers, 'cause I can't breathe until you breathe. So breathe on me. Let my life be an altar.
This is the moment
will live. So come on in, come on in. Come on, won't you sing that this morning? Welcome in, welcome in. He's already here. He's already here. Come on, open up your heart this morning. Come on, every hand raised. Every hand raised. Come on. The Spirit of the living God is here. Come on, breathe Him in. Breathe Him in right now. Whatever you touch will live. So come on in. Come on in. Whatever you touch will live. So come on in. Come on. Come on in. Whatever you touch will live. Come on, He's standing before you right now. Come on, make it personal. Come on in. Whatever you touch will live. Come on in. Come on in. Whatever you touch will live. Come on in. This is the moment when red meets fire. Come on in. Our hearts are burning for fresh revival. Come on in. We're gonna be fire. Our God is a holy one. Whatever you speak is done. Whatever you touch will live. Our God is consuming fire. Our God is a holy one. Whatever you speak is done. Whatever you touch will live. Come breathe on us,
Hey everyone, my name is Eli Godinez. I serve as one of the board of directors here at Without Walls Church. I wanted to personally thank you for watching our online sermon today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube platform to stay up to date with all the sermons. Can't wait to see you next time. God bless.
I really feel something special in I don't know. I call it special, something unique maybe in the service today. I think that what we come in expecting in a gathering together of the saints is that I think everybody comes in with different mindsets that we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to do this, or it's supposed to be this way, or we need to be elevated up to here, or we need to be somber and a little bit more quieter, or we need to do this. And everybody has their ideas of what a gathering is supposed to look like when God's people come together, because that's what we are. You all are the church. This is just a gathering of the church. We're in a building. We call it a church building. It's really not a church building. It's just a building that the church gathers in. And we come in with expectations or things, and many times we say, well, it didn't quite go the way I wanted it, so I didn't receive from God. Or, wow, that was really great today. That's exactly the way I like it. That's exactly what I was looking for. That's what I needed. And you may catch different things from different times and from week to week or from time to time in the gathering. The fact is if you're just looking for an exterior motivation to be able to press in and to receive from God, you have gotten it all wrong. You're deceived. Because you can pump people up. You can jazz people up. We can bring people down. Very introspective and into a moment of, quiet solace and people get thinking in. And all of those opportunities are not wrong. They're not bad. But you can't expect that that's the only way you find God, or that's the only way you experience His presence. The fact is when we come in here for a gathering like this should be simply the overflow of what should already be taking place in your life Monday through Saturday. I mean, when you go out these doors, if you are pressing into God and you're desiring His presence and you're wanting to hear and you're getting revelation, and people think that the only place that they can pray for people and, try to be used or their giftings can be used are just inside this building. No, the gifts are for impacting the people that you encounter every day of your life. It's pressing in. It's praying for people out there. It's giving words of knowledge out there. It's praying for healing out there. It's opening up. It's prophesying over people out there. Everybody just confines it to here many times, and it is to be used. People will come to us and say, well, we're looking for a church where the gifts move. Well, then you got to look at yourself. You got to look in the mirror. Do you think just coming inside this building, all of a sudden, that's where, I can feel the gifts moving in here? No. It's in individuals. It's in vessels of flesh. It's in hearts that are willing and yielded and submitted under the mighty hand of God, and it opens up opportunities and giftings and strengths and anointings that you have been called into, and to bring it out. The reason for the gathering of the church like this on Sundays, we see it in the New Testament. You say, well, they met on the Sabbath, which was a Saturday. Well, the thing is after the resurrection of Christ, they started meeting in the synagogues on the Sunday to coincide with the first day of the week, which was Sunday, when Jesus rose from the dead. So yes, Saturday was there, a Sabbath, but Sundays was a gathering as well, which is the New Testament church where we're coming together on a day like today. There were people that thus far in this service have received something from God. There are other people that are still looking for it because it didn't happen like you thought. I just felt this, guys. I'm just going to be open this morning. And I feel many times that the most significant things that happen are the things that take place, oftentimes the opposite of what you anticipated or expect. So the fact is from that corner of the room to that corner of the room, to the back to the front, what is it? What is it that you desire most of all? Is it to have a need met, or is it to worship Him? Because the first will only come as the latter is prioritized. So everything we do in a time, we feel like we're being led by the Holy Spirit, so we're gonna go for it. When it comes to a time like this, where the word is about ready to be opened up and delivered, this might be the most strategic moment in your week this week, right now. Because it's not just of the subject matter, but it's of the fact of, people ask me, I've gotten so many emails as of late with the elections and everything, the things that are going on. They say, Pastor, what happened to the church? What was it that shifted from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, even 20 years ago? When people would, every time the door opened, people were there gathering, people were moving out. They were impacting neighborhoods, and they were impacting workplaces. What happened? Why are we in the post-Christian era when we should be in a pro-Christian era in time? What happened? And I tell you, I really feel that it's this right here. The problem has been mixture. Sometimes the voice that's the loudest tends to overpower and dominate and influence, and we don't even realize it's happening. We talked about things last week, about things that can happen and come through the bloodline. I mean, what's the first thing a doctor asks you when you go in and say, Doctor, I'm hurting here, I got this, I'm not really sure what it is. And what is it when you fill out that little paper? What are they asking you on there? The doctor will sit down, he say, now, has there been any symptoms like this in your family? You say, well, I feel I'm having heart problems, or I got asthma, or I got this. They'll ask you, has this run in your family? Does your mom have it? Your dad? Does your grandparent have? We accept it. Even the doctors know more than some church people do. The fact that things can move through a bloodline, the same way that you can have a hereditary disease, it can happen because it runs through the bloodline. Well, the same thing happens in the spiritual realm. But that's not the only way. See, when we talk about mixture in life, there's many angles that we have to take on this, and things that maybe we lose sight of and we don't even anticipate and expect. And all of a sudden, it overtakes our life, and here we are, we're caught in a cycle. Do you know that in this generation right now, this is an interesting generation that we're in, because it isn't so much that they have abandoned God, but yet at the same time they haven't really embraced the life of knowing God and walking with God. And so what that allows then is a little bit of light and a little bit of darkness, a little bit of sin, a little bit of righteousness. You know, there's friends that pull the best out of me, and then there's those people that pull the worst out of me. And it's like the parable that Jesus taught about the wheat and the tares. That this man comes out and he looks at his garden and he sees that there are wheat and tares in the garden. A tear is like, you consider it like a weed. It's something undesirable. See, I want you to see that. That's the difference between wheat and tares. And from a distance, a tear looks very similar to the wheat. And it's not many times until you get up on it that you realize, oh man, there's something here that I didn't sow for. And that's really what this parable is about. This man had something good and he had something bad. And it caused unsettledness and frustration in his life. But let me ask you something. What happens when life gives you both? What happens? I mean, what does it mean to have mixed seed flowing in and out of your life? Because, you know, the mixture of things flowing in will always produce a mixture of things going out. That's why the Bible says in Proverbs that we are to guard our heart with all diligence, for out of it, in other words, out of the heart, your belief system, that's the subconscious, that's what drills down, that's the foundation of your life, for out of it flow the issues, the fruit, the harvest of your life. I mean, could it be that it's not my enemy who's creating my issues, but rather that I've just not guarded my heart? And I've let bad things in, which is pushing bad things out. And it's very frustrating. So mixture comes out of your life when mixture goes into your life. And this generation, probably more than any other generation ever, has gotten so good at compartmentalizing life. In other words, I've never seen it like it is now in the church, where people actually, they've become so good at learning how to frame Jesus and put a border or a wall around Jesus and confine him to a couple hours, once a week on a Sunday, and they don't allow him to permeate the other areas of our life. I mean, we even see it taking place with leaders. Because, the thing is that the problem with the people, in many ways, is there's a problem with the leaders. And Jesus himself said that a student becomes like his teacher. And he even went on to say that if the blind lead the blind, will they not both fall into the ditch? I mean, this is scriptural. This is biblical. And what we see so prevalent in our generation today is that you have people who won't take the word of God and they won't take it and use it and apply it into other areas outside of the church environment. So people can come into a church environment like this. They can go to church and they can go to a conference and they can go to a rally and they can go to an event and they can experience God and they can get on a high and I want to live here. This is what I want. But yet they walk away from that and they don't apply the word to their money. They don't apply the word to their marriage and their family and their relationship. They don't apply the word to their job and their career. They don't apply the word to their talk and to their conversation. They don't apply the word to their social media posts. And this is the generation and the society that we are in and that we are to influence. And the thing is it's really not that they don't like or appreciate God, but yet it's just that they allow God and the world into their life, and that is unacceptable to God. Let me show you how serious he is about this. In 1 John 2, verse 15, God spoke through John, his disciple, an apostle, John the Revelator. He wrote Revelation under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. Here's what he said in 1 John 2, verse 15. He said, "Do not love the world or anything in the world." Let me say it again. Do not love the world or anything in the world. So I can't do a little bit of this and hold on to that. Anything. And then he goes on. He said, if anyone loves the world, anything, if he loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Now let me ask you a question. Is there any gray area in what I just read? I mean, does that confuse you at all? If the love of the world is in you, desires, affections, things that you still, I really like, but God, but this over here, but I love the Lord, but I love her. You know, I love the presence of the Lord, but I love this. Anything. And then he goes on to say, verse 16, for all that is in the world, the lust of the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, they're not of the Father, but it's strictly of the world. That's it. All that is in the world, listen to this. All that is in the world is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Anything that is contrary or opposite to God, his heart, his will fall under any of those three headings. The lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, the pride of life. We see it from the very beginning, back in the garden, Genesis 3. It explains it to us very easily. I think it's verse 6 or something like that, where the serpent came to Eve. And look at what it said even back then. It said that she saw, or that she saw that the fruit was good for eating, that's the flesh, or she looked at it and saw that it was pleasant to the eyes, that's the lust of the eyes, and that it would make one wise, or that they could be like God, according to what the serpent said, and they didn't have a clue that they were already like God, but that's how he deceives. So that was the pride of life. So all three areas started even back in the garden. Then the second Adam, Jesus, comes some 4,000 years later. Before he enters into his public ministry, the Holy Spirit leads him out into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights where he fasted, didn't eat a thing. Somewhere in that span of time, in the 40 days and 40 nights, Satan comes to him, the devil comes and tempts him. And look at what he tempts him with right off the bat. He said, hey, if you're the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. Well, if you haven't been eating for 2 weeks, wouldn't you kind of be hungry a little bit? He was tempting with the flesh. And then the second temptation, he said, he took him up onto an exceeding high mountain and he showed him all of the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And he said to him, if you will bow down and worship me, I'll give you everything that you see, the lust of the eyes. But Jesus said, hey, dude, get out of my face. I'm going to only worship the Lord thy God, and him only will thou serve. And then the last temptation, it says that he went to Jerusalem, put Jesus on a pinnacle, or Jesus ended up on a pinnacle. However that worked, I don't know. But the fact is, he challenged his, you could almost in a sense say, his manhood. He said, hey, if you're the Son of God, then throw yourself down from there. How big are you? Come on, how tough? I mean, when guys are challenged, we get prideful. We want to, when women are challenged, when my wife's challenged, she gets prideful. And no, I'm kidding. But she's very humble most of the time. And what I find, does anybody have a couch that I could sleep on a little later tonight? I may need one. But the thing is that he was challenged for his pride. So, all three areas, the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That's all that's in the world. So there's these three areas of the world that want to be active in my life. Yet at the same time, I'm born again. And in my inner man, I delight in the law of God. And I've got these two forces that are working in me, and they're begging for time. My flesh is saying, hey, I got stuff I want to do. And God, by his Spirit, is saying, hey, I got stuff I want to do. I've got a purpose for your life. And the Bible says that they battle and that they are contrary to one another. And they're fighting over the same turf, my mind. And the one that wins is the one that is fed and nourished. The one that loses is the one that's starved. So oftentimes we will stand back and we can take a peek at our lives and we can look at things. And isn't it crazy for many of us? Sometimes it may be the best of times as well, yet as the worst of times. You ever been there? Where it seems like, man, this is just going beautifully. Things are progressing. But over here, this is falling apart. You know, I may be getting promotions at work, and they're looking at me like, hey, you know, I'm really something, and you feel good. But over here, you come home and your marriage and your family are crumbling and falling apart. It's good and it's bad. It's like some things will be positive and some things will be negative. In other words, what that is it's mixture. I mean, we'll look at areas of our life many times and we'll say, oh, that's just a spiritual attack. Well, that's just a season. Or we'll say, well, God's just trying to work some things out of my life. And all of those things may be possible. But sometimes, and maybe more times than not, most of the time, it's that we are letting mixed seed into our life, which is then turning around and pushing mixed results. Some good, and some not so good. You been there? Let's turn to Matthew 13. Matthew 13th chapter, and we're going to pull this parable out just a little bit, and I'll actually connect it to another one as well. Matthew 13, starting at verse 24. This is the parable of the wheat and tares. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of God is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. Now notice the seed that he sowed was good. Okay, but while men slept, remember that phrase, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and then went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? And he said to them, an enemy has done this. The servant said to him, do you want us to then go and gather them up? But he said, no, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Now, what I want to do then is I want to back up to verse 1, and there's another parable that Jesus gave prior to this one, and I'm going backwards for a reason, okay? Verse 1, Matthew 13. On the same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea. And a great multitude were gathered together to him, so that he got into the boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. Some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them out. And then others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. Now bump over to verse 10. And the disciples came and said to him, why do you speak with them in parables? Now notice they said with them, not with us, but with them. Why do you speak with them in parables? He answered and said to them, because it has been given to you, the followers, to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. So what's happening here is Jesus is kind of talking in stories. He's talking in code. And the disciples are trying to figure out, why don't you just tell them straight? Just give it to them, like you give it to us. And although Jesus did share some parables with the disciples, but obviously you see in the writings as well that he would just talk directly to them. And so they're asking this question, and what you have to remember is that when it comes to God's mysteries, that there is an us and there's a them. And a lot of people will say, well, wait a second, doesn't Jesus love everybody? I mean, why would he give truth to one group and then not give it to another group? Doesn't he love everybody? Yes, Jesus loves everybody. Jesus loves all the people out there that are doing dumb and crazy things right now. Okay, for God so loved the world. Jesus loves everybody, but everybody doesn't love him the same. See, it's not about how much he loves us, it's how much do we love him. But when it comes to the kingdom, the Bible says that it's like a pearl of great price, or it's like a treasure that's buried in a field. And it's locked up in a mystery that Jesus said, it's for you to know that mystery. It's not for them. So he says, what I'm going to do for them, basically, is I'm just going to continue talking to them in stories, in parables. And hopefully, I'm elaborating on this, hopefully what is shared will spawn something in their mind. It will prick their motivation. It will open up their eyes to something that will cause them to stir and to follow after me and to want more. Because I'm just not, if they want it, they're going to have to, if they get it, they're going to have to want it to get it. I'm not just going to throw it out there. I'm not going to cast pearls before swine. What that means, I'm not going to take something of great value, just throw it to animals because they don't understand the value of it. And see, they're going to have to want this, just like the disciples wanted it. So he said, I'm going to talk to them in parables. Now, look at verse 12 of Matthew 13 as well. It says, for whoever has, to him more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away. Now go down to verse 18. Therefore, hear the parable of the sower. So here Jesus just begins to explain to the disciples what this parable meant. And here's a portion of it. He said, when anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in the heart. This is he who receives seed by the wayside. What he was basically saying here is that you're going to hear things. There'll be people that will hear things today. Whether you're sitting in this building, you're watching right now on our online platform, or even later when people will go and look at this later on. You're going to hear things today, and it stirs you for a moment, like, oh man, I never thought of that. Boy, that's good. And you think, I've got to apply that to my life, or I need to go deeper in that. And what happens is when you walk away from that and you get back into the routines and the schedules, all of a sudden it just kind of quickly fades away. And that's what he's saying. So these are the ones he said that are the seeds that were sown by the wayside. Then he talks about the stony ground. Then he talks about the thorns. And then in verse 23, he talks about the good ground. Now, let me take these two parables and connect them together because Jesus connected them together. In the parable of the wheat and tares, he said that the kingdom is like a man who sowed good seed. See, it's difficult to learn. The challenge really is to learn how to sow or how to plant good seed while you're reaping a bad harvest. Now listen to me closely on this. People will get saved, and many times I hear them because they'll come up to me and say, Pastor, man, I got saved a few weeks ago and you baptized me and da-da-da-da. And, and I kind of thought that when I got saved and gave my life to Christ that things would kind of get a little bit easier and lighten up, because I got the power of the Holy Spirit now. But he said, they'll say that it feels like it's actually gotten a little bit worse in some ways. And I obviously explained to them, well, come on, you're a threat to the devil now. Some things are going to happen. But then they'll go on and say, well, I got saved and I went to Move Tracks and I got signed up for Activate Discipleship. And, I've been trying to read my Bible and pray every day. And, I'm serving now and I'm trying to, be at church consistently. And they'll go through all of these things. And what they don't realize is that they still got unborn seed. There are some things that they planted back yonder that still haven't come up. Or maybe it just sprouted its head and said, hello, remember me? Because the fact is you've gotten saved. Your future is brand new. 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. All things are passed away, and behold, all things become new. But while you are reaping a harvest that you wish you hadn't planted back then, you have to remain steadfast where you are, firm, and continue to sow for what you want to see tomorrow. And that's what's difficult for people oftentimes, because they'll try to do that, and that's where people can get bitter and they get frustrated if they're not being discipled or people aren't coming alongside of them, because they thought that when they got saved it would burn up all the unborn seed. And I've always explained it this way, and it works well. The thing is, if you come to Jesus and you've made some poor decisions back before, and if you come to Jesus and you're 6 months pregnant and single, guess what? You're still going to have a baby. Why? Well, I don't know how I got pregnant, Pastor. Well, I do. It's got seed, time, and harvest, you know? I mean, when you saw that pregnancy strip and it was positive, you said, no, I rebuke you, Satan, in Jesus' name. The devil is a liar, and you can go all through it. But it's not the devil. It was you and Jimmy and Billy Bob or whoever it was with. See, so the thing is this, is in this parable, Jesus is saying this is what the kingdom is like. This is what kingdom life is like. Yeah, see, that means this then, you can still be in the kingdom and you can have tares. Remember, tares means undesirable thing. So that means that you can sow, you can plant stuff, you can plant seed that you intended to plant. And you expect a harvest. And you're waiting on your harvest. And so when the harvest comes up, you're not surprised because you sowed good seed. And God blessed the seed and he caused it to multiply to where you had a great harvest. But he says right here that even in the kingdom, that there are things that are desirable and things that are undesirable. In other words, you can have conflict in your garden or in your life. Verse 26, he said, but when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, he said, then the tares also appeared. Now notice the timing here, people. Notice, he said, at the time that the harvest sprouted, here come the tares. Isn't that just like the enemy? Just about the time you get some good news, you get a knock on the door. You get a phone call, you know? I mean, you got up that morning and you went to your job and out of nowhere, they come to you and said, listen, we want to offer you a promotion. And it takes you off guard. You didn't realize, I mean, you've been sowing, you've been doing everything to be a good steward, a good employee, and you're trying to represent Christ, and all of a sudden they're going to give it to you. And that bump up moves you up in stature and position and moves you up, financially. It sets you in a better place. And they give it to you. And you are on cloud 9. On your way home, you get a call from the principal's office. Your son was caught smoking pot in the bathroom and he's expelled for 4 weeks. Wheat and the tares. Something desirable and something undesirable. And get this, they both grow together. And Jesus said, such is the kingdom. Aren't you glad you came today? So listen, if a pastor or another Christian ever told you at all, if they ever told you that when you get saved, that you're never going to have another issue, that God's going to be there, he's your provider, he's your sustainer, he's everything, you're not going to have any struggles in your life, they obviously did not tell you, or they didn't know about the parable of the wheat and tares. Because Jesus said that even people who know how to work the kingdom, that there will be times when they can get sleepy. They can get casual, lose focus. Because verse 25, it says while they slept, while men slept, it said that the enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. Now, what you have to realize is that word slept, that doesn't mean like going to bed at night and sleeping. What that is a whole different term in the Greek. It actually means to become casual or to lose focus or to lose sight of or to not be watchful. See, it's one thing to remember for us that when you are in a fight, that requires your focus. It demands your focus. People who are going through a tough time, people who are going through a fight, if they've got challenges or they got a mountain that stands before them that they're trying to get past and to get over, you will find that people will be intent. man, they will be laser focused. They'll be careful. They'll be watchful. They'll watch how they, they'll watch how they talk and the words that come out of their mouth. They'll watch who they hang out with. They'll be diligent in taking their time to spend time in the Word and, to spend time praying to God. And, they're at church consistently. They're down here every end of a service having the prayer team anoint them with oil till they could slither back out of the church service. I mean, they've been prayed for so many times. They're doing everything. They are intent and they're focused. But then when God brings them through the fight, oftentimes we look around, we can't find them anywhere. I mean, they're not at church that much anymore. They used to go to Bible study. They're not going there. They're not hooked up with a community group. They're not serving anywhere. Yeah, we used to watch them. They used to be right down in the front during worship, man, pressing in. They're nowhere to be found. Because you want to know what's happening? Is that God brings you through a season and now there's no fight. And what happens is we get relaxed and we get casual and the enemy comes and he sows tares among sleepy Christians. It's not in the fight where you're vulnerable. It's in the blessing where you're vulnerable. It's when you've made it through the fight and you're basking in the victory that people will have a tendency to relax and let's party. You know what I mean? Whatever. Not in a bad way, but I mean, let's just relax and man, thank you, God. And just kind of, our attitude kind of shifts and changes many times, and we're no longer diligent, we're no longer watchful, and we're no longer as intent as we were when we were in the middle of the fight. So the Bible says, while men slept. I wonder how many marriages have ended up in destruction because you weren't watchful. You weren't focused. I wonder how many kids have been lost to this or that because parents weren't attentive, weren't watchful. I wonder how many opportunities that were missed in your life because you just let it go and you weren't intent and you weren't focused and you weren't watchful. I mean, look at Noah and the ark. Here is a family of 8 that all of humanity from that point now going forward, as well as animal life on the earth, is dependent on them making it through this event. This great flood that we always refer to. And I mean, can you imagine? They've never been through this before. It rained and it rained and it rained. 40 days, 40 nights. The water levels rose until everything was wiped from the earth except them and what was in that ark. And I'm sure that Noah was very intentional in that because he had never experienced this before. I'm sure that, I don't know, he probably had a lot of sleepless nights because this was uncertain. I mean, he didn't know what was going to track. I mean, he had lions and tigers and stuff in that boat. You're just inside the boat. It could have issues, much less what was outside. Was the gopher wood going to hold up and what we plastered in between, is it going to come in? The water going to, I mean, there was intentionality, I'm sure, in Noah during that time. But once the rains ceased, the water levels receded, and the ark, he settled on Mount Ararat there, and things began to be like, whew, we made it. It's over. I see sunshine. The bird brought the little leaf. We know that's a good sign. It says that Noah opens up the door of the ark. He goes out. He gets drunk. He ends up naked and exposed before his children. So the moral of that is that it's not when you're in the storm that you're caught with your pants down. It's when you've made it through the storm and you get relaxed. And you've lost your intentionalism and you no longer are careful. And things don't take on the intensity that they once had. You can't lose your focus. You cannot become sleepy. And I want you to notice one other thing here. Notice that the wheat and the tares are both fighting for the same ground. Come on, they have to have ground to be able to grow, and they're fighting for the same space, and the Bible says that they grow together. Now let's parallel that for a moment. Just look at today. Look at the ground of the internet. Right now, millions of people can access the gospel. They can connect to churches like ours and to ministries. They can connect and they can find every type of biblical or spiritual resource and educational material from all across the world. I mean, right now, as I'm talking, there are people from all over the world that are joining us online. You don't see them, they're there. Hello, we're glad to have you with us today. They are part of this. And they access the entire service. It's not the same as being here, you need to know that. But the fact is this, is that they're accessing the same thing that you are hearing or going through or experiencing in a service. And the thing is, that's because of this ground of the internet. But statistics also tell us that right now, across the street, in houses and in neighborhoods all around this church and beyond, that there are individuals who are on the internet looking at pornography right now, filling their minds with filth and perversion. And it's all in the same ground of the internet. I mean, let's just apply that to television. Today, television, you still do have Christian networks that are broadcasting, around the world 24/7. The gospel. People are being changed and impacted by it. But at the same time, there are also cable networks that are broadcasting carnality all around the world 24/7. It's the wheat and the tares. They fight over the same ground, and get this, they both grow together. So they're fighting for the same internet. They're fighting for the same airwaves. They're fighting for the same money. They're fighting for the same resources. They're fighting for the same positions in government. And they're growing together. Such is the kingdom. See, people will ask, well, what do you think? I mean, these are the last days, Pastor. I mean, these are the last of the last days. If this is a post-Christian era, and if the church got a little sleepy over these past generations leading up to this time right now, what do you think? Do you think it's getting worse? Do you think it's getting better? How about if I told you I think it's both? Because the thing is we have never had a time ever in history where we have had the capability, because of digital technology, to be able to span the globe with the gospel of Christ. We've never had the ability to impact nations like we have right now. It's never been that way. But at the same time, we've never seen more evil and more perversion and more carnality than we are seeing right now. It's the wheat and the tares. They're fighting over the same ground, and they grow together. Such is the kingdom. And such is the problem. So, Pastor, how do we shift this? How do we start? How do we get it turned around? Well, first of all, it's without a doubt, it's an absolute total abandon of pursuit for God and His presence. Allowing His word to permeate your life and the truth to change and renew your mind. That's always where it starts. But let me close by reading Proverbs, the 4th chapter, 7 verses out of there that I think Solomon nailed it here. He said, listen carefully, my dear child, this is Passion Translation, to everything that I teach you, and pay attention to all that I have to say. Fill your thoughts with my words until they penetrate deep into your spirit. Then, as you unwrap my words, they will impart true life and radiant health into the very core of your being. So above all, guard the affections of your heart, for they affect all that you are. Pay attention to the welfare of your innermost being, for from there flows the wellspring of life. Avoid dishonest speech and pretentious words. Be free from using perverse words no matter what. Set your gaze on the path before you. With fixed purpose, looking straight ahead, ignore life's distractions. Watch where you're going. See, that's intentionalism. That's being aware. Watch where you're going. Stick to the path of truth, and the road will be safe and smooth before you. Don't allow yourself to be sidetracked for even a moment, or take the detour that leads to darkness. You remember Jesus said that there is a wide road that leads to destruction, and many there be that will go down that road. And then he said that there is a narrow road that leads to life, completeness, wholeness, and few there be that find it. So the question is if we include ourselves in the number of the few, if you do that, then what are we going to do with what we now are presented with? Because of what he's deposited in you by his Holy Spirit. Church, you have the power, and you can control whether the tares have any influence in your life. Because seed is going to be thrown and tossed at you continuously. There's the rhetoric of our culture and our society that is continual. It doesn't give up. It doesn't let up. So it's there. So you'll have seed that is cast, but you have the power and the authority and the right to be able to determine whether that seed will have any impact on your life. And what it's going to do is it's going to require diligence. It'll require watchfulness. It will require a targeted focus. And you can't let yourself get sleepy, get casual. You can't justify things away that I'm okay with God. I've been walking with God for all these years. Yeah, but are you walking here or are you walking here? Because if that's happening, then what determines whether you might be in the group that Jesus says, "Depart from me, I never knew you, you who practice lawlessness"? This is the perfect law of love, James says. And we are to implant the word, the truth, into our soul. It's the implanted word, the Bible says, that's able to save your souls. Your soul is your mind, your will, your emotions, everything. It's the word that shifts and renews the mind and allows us to then walk to and fro in a transformed state. What will you do? My heart is for you, that no matter where you're at, listen, even in the seasons and the times when you're doing everything to do things right, and you're giving and you're sowing and you're pursuing God, but you're still reaping a yucky harvest in that moment from maybe previous seed sown, just remember Galatians 6:9. Don't get weary in doing well. He said, for in due season, you will reap. It'll come back to you if you do not faint, if you don't let yourself get sleepy and casual. Remain steadfast, looking into the perfect law of liberty, because that is what will save your soul. Will you bow your heads?
Thanks for watching today's sermon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with our sermons. We can't wait to see you next time. God bless.